In the previous video, we built the gallons to liters app, and everything worked great. We can put in a number of gallons, click convert to liters, and we get the equivalent number of liters to the number of gallons that were entered. We wrote some very basic code to make that happen, and everything seemed like it was wonderful. But what happens if the user forgets to put something into gallons, and then they click convert to liters? Our app crashes. Or if they enter some bad data, such as alpha text, and try to convert that to liters, our app crashes. So how do we handle that? How do we make sure that our app provides for each possibility? The problem lies in the fact that we've got an optional here that may or may not contain a valid value. So we're looking at a couple ways to work with optionals to keep our app from crashing. The first method I'm going to show you to crash-proof our optional input is the if-let statement. And I'm just going to create a little comment here of this is our original code. And let's comment that out. So I'll add a comment of improved for error handling of optional. I need to still get our text that the user has entered. So I'm going to copy that statement, and we'll use that again here. But what I'm going to change is add an if-let structure. And I'll create a new variable called gallons double. And that's going to equal the double value of our gallons variable. But I'm not going to unwrap it here because the if-let basically is testing to see if that is a valid value for gallons. And if it is, it'll do something. And if it's not, we'll have an else fork that we can do something if it's not a valid value. So what we have happen here is basically the same statement we used up above, but instead of passing it the double value of gallons unwrapped, we've already wrapped it as gallons double. Once it returns a valid value, then we're going to basically set our liters labeled text. So let's copy that back in. So very little difference between these two, other than we've had this if-let unwrapping the value of gallons in that if-let. Now, what if it's not a valid value? Well, let's let this value equal NaN for not a number. And let's try this. So my program still works if I have a valid value there. But if I put nothing there, convert to liters, I get NaN. It doesn't crash anymore. Let's put another valid value in. And then what if I put invalid value in, such as text? Again, I get not a number. So it's handling those two scenarios where previously it crashed. That makes this a much better approach than our very simple processing of the text from our gallons input. Let's look at another way to do this. I'm going to comment out the code we just wrote in favor of another approach. We'll add a comment here using the guard method in our function for error handling. So I'm going to come back up to my original code. I'm going to copy that and paste it in. Now, the other thing I'm going to do differently here is I'm not going to unwrap gallons. And we get a little error because it's expecting us to unwrap it there. But what I'm going to do instead is go to my function and I'll comment out the original function, but here we're going to pass it an optional value. And we can use the guard statement then with let. So here we'll simply say let gallons equal gallons. And then we use an else. So this is going to validate that gallons has an appropriate value in it. And if not, we want to do something else. And what we're going to do here is simply return not a number, or NaN. When gallons is unwrapped and it's not a legitimate value, we'll return not a number. But if it is a legitimate value, it does contain a double value, then we'll let the rest of the code run. Let's try this. So again, we have processing that happens when we have a legitimate value in there for a number of gallons. Let's make this just a space. Now we get not a number. We'll go back to legitimate value. And if we put in something, again, text like ABC, we get not a number. So two different ways of handling it. One is before we send it to the function, and the other one is handling it in the function with the guard statement. By the way, to get your app accepted into the App Store, they will test it, and they want to make sure it doesn't crash. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the iOS app development cohort playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.